I think one of the most important conversations that our industry is having right now is on the topic of mental health. And today we are going to shed some serious light on this topic with a dear friend of mine, Sara, the founder of JO+CO. See, Sara has been through every stage of business, from starting a new business to growing and expanding all the way to 3 storefronts, and then deciding, you know what? This is not for me. It's not making me happy. And she took her business and her life in a completely different direction. And if I'm being honest, one of the questions that I see coming across the hub quite often is, how do I know if this isn't right for me? How do I know if maybe a storefront isn't what I want, or maybe being online isn't making me happy? I just feel stressed out and overwhelmed trying to keep up with the Joneses. And I want to build a business that I love and that I can really work into my lifestyle and create freedom and flexibility and happiness, but not always be chasing what's next. We're going to talk about all of it today. Because every single one of us at some point has to step back and say, am I doing what really makes me happy at the end of the day? And Sara is going to teach us all about how to do that. Guys, meet my friend Sara, the founder of JO+CO, an amazing boutique owner and insightful woman. Get ready. Let's talk about your business, strategy, and the juicy details of what actually works, from mainstream fashion to fashion on Main Street and the entire ecosystem behind it. How do we scale your company and do it with the balance and the happiness that we all seek? Let's hear from those insiders, experts, and strategists that actually make it happen. I'm your host, Ashley Alderson from the Boutique Hub, and I can't wait to chat. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast this week. We are going to have, I'm just going to call this some like real girl talk. Can we just have girl talk today, Sara?
Absolutely.
I think that's going to be like the heart of this episode. It's going to be some strategy, some takeaways business-wise, but it's going to be more like impactful for those of you who just want a real honest conversation about what it means to grow and make your business what you want it to be. So I'm so excited to really dig into all that. So Sara, thanks so much for being on the show with me today.
I'm so excited. This is actually on my vision board. It's been a long time. Maybe that's why I'm so nervous. I don't know.
We're living a vision board moment right now. Everyone listening, you are living a vision board moment right now. That's so cool.
I love it. I know. Well, it's so neat.
For this, you're gonna shine in your vision board moment because you have one of the most unique stories to tell in this industry. And I feel so blessed to get to have watched your journey unfold over the last couple of years and just like really hear the nitty gritty of it. So I'm so pumped that you're going to be able to share it today.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it. Backstory. So to set up where we're at today and the decisions you've made today, I want to go all the way back to the beginning. Tell me how you got into the boutique business and how you started to scale your business right away.
Yeah. So business is in my blood. My dad has owned his own business. A lot of my female family members have owned their own business, which is where my company was named after. But I went to school for fashion merchandising and moved to New York City shortly after graduating college. And I worked in and out of the industry there for about 5 years, everything from showroom assistant to executive assistant to production to merchandising. I mean, I got all the experience I needed. And I just was not happy. I wasn't. And I started getting into it and saying, I need something different. I want to move home, maybe not home, but close to home. And, I was talking to my sister and she's like, why don't you open your own boutique? Like it's something you've always wanted to do. And this was back in 2012. So e-commerce was just starting. People were still selling on eBay. It was like brick and mortar e-commerce was just coming up. So I worked 3 jobs while in New York City. I saved up a huge chunk of money for myself, opened my first store in my hometown. At that time, it was called something different. And that was 11 years ago. I opened my first store, which is just so crazy. It's been on a roller coaster ride ever since. I joke with people that I probably have made every single mistake you could make within this industry, which is a good thing now, I think.
That's so good.
Yeah. So it's all a learning experience. I don't regret any step. But I mean, it's been a roller coaster ride. I've gone from one store to 2 to 3, back to 2 to 1, 2 again. So I've really just, I don't know, I've hit every corner I feel like you can. And the last, full year has been a huge transformation for me personally.
I love that. We're going to unpack all of that transformation in just a minute, but go back to when you first started and you made the decision, I want 2 stores, and now I want 3 stores. Talk to me about how you unpacked those decisions and what worked in that growth, and then maybe what didn't work in that growth. What were some of the mistakes you feel like you maybe did make along the way that you would have done differently now, along like the scaling part? And then we'll talk about scaling down in just a minute.
Yeah, I was at that time I was 25, 26, I think. And all I had in the forefront of my mind is I just wanted to be extremely financially successful. Like that was it. There was no really why behind my business that I really dug deep into. Now there's a huge why, and I have figured out, why I do what I do. But back then it wasn't about that. It was, let's start a business, let's make a lot of money, let's open a lot of locations. It wasn't a lot of decisions made from my heart and my gut. It was more in my head. And so when I opened my first store, I had a great first month, and I live in a very small town. And I was like, this is it. I've hit the gold mine. I can retire now, right? Let's open a second location. So after the first month, I decided to go ahead and open a second location and went an hour away to a bigger city. And I thought being a bigger city equaled way more income, and it didn't. And so then when that didn't reach what I thought, then I was like, well, maybe a third store will get me financially to where I want to be. So then I opened another location. And it really came back and blew up in my face, to say it delicately. At that time, I was pregnant with my first child, and there are times where I just would cry. I just was so miserable and so unhappy. And the evening I made the decision to shut down the third location, I went into labor. And it was just like my body was waiting for me to make that decision to say, okay, we're good now. That's done. This is the right move. And since then, up until a couple years ago, it was just every decision I've made in terms of when it came to my business, in terms of that mistake, it just wasn't for the right reason. I wasn't listening to myself or what I wanted. I wasn't getting in tune with actually what I needed for me. It was more or less chasing the money instead of saying like, okay, but what do you want?
Yeah. Yeah. Before you like learned that lesson, before you realized, okay, it's about the money right now. It's about the growth. It's about achieving a financial goal versus what do I want? What questions do you wish you would have stopped and asked yourself before the second store and before the third store? Or what processes do you wish would have been in place that would have maybe slowed you down to say, okay, am I evaluating this in a way that makes the most sense for where I want to go?
I really wish I would have just taken time to be honest with myself, because now where I'm at, which is, operating pretty much online only and with a franchise location, it's been in my face. It's been there the whole time. The whole time. I just didn't want to listen to it because that wasn't what was happening back when I started this. It was something new, and I didn't realize I could actually achieve success in the way that I wanted, not how everyone else was doing it. And so the only way I thought I could be successful was by opening a ton of brick and mortar locations. That's how I thought I was going to be successful. That's what I grew up around. That's in my day and age, seeing e-commerce come to life. That was like the safe thing to do. That's what you did. That's what you should do. But all along, since day one, e-commerce has been that huge bubble around me of that driving force of saying, okay, this is going to complement this, but I still want to grow my e-com. I still want to do this. And I just did not take time to listen to myself and be honest with myself. I think because I was so busy saying, having this dialogue that I want to be a multimillionaire and I don't care how I do it. I don't care if it makes me miserable. I wasn't even thinking that. It was just more or less like, I'm going to get there because this is how you traditionally always did it.
Yeah. And it's probably really easy to see other people that you look up to in the industry and say, oh, I'm going to be like her. So this is the goal and this is how I'm going to get there. And all of a sudden we're chasing somebody else's dream, but not chasing our own. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And there's so many different ways you can look at that. It could be how they operate their business. It could be their style. It could be how they brand themselves. There's so many different ways of how you can look at it when it comes to your business, and not just a financial standpoint. I talk to so many people, and I'm guilty of it too, of, looking up to people and saying, okay, that like they achieve success. So you know what? We're going to be super bubbly and happy and very colorful, because if that's working for them, then it's going to work for us. When all along, that's not really who I am or what I want. That wasn't me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so valuable. I hope everybody listening just pauses for a second, because at the end of the day, that's it. Like, you cannot be your best interpretation of somebody else and find success. The only path to get there is to be brutally honest with yourself and who you want to be and how you want to operate and how you want to show up. And that's going to resonate with your customers far more. So, Sarah, talk to me about this. So you got to 3 stores to 2. Talk to me about the process of closing the 2 stores to get yourself back down to 1. Like, tangibly, like, what were some of the steps you took? How did you market that to your audience? Like, what did that feel like and look like? Just to kind of paint a picture for somebody who maybe is in the stage of giving themselves permission to do the same.
Being where I'm at now and being able to look back, I'm able to sit here and say everything worked out so beautifully in a way that it was meant to be. And any huge mistake I've made, it's because I forced it to happen. It's like, this isn't really working, but I'm still just going to go after it. But looking back at how this all transpired, it was all lined up. And so going from the 3rd location, shutting that down, I took a pause. I had my son and I was with the 2 locations, and my lease was coming up at my 2nd location, which was in the bigger city, and the landlords and I were not getting along. And I remember messaging my friend Erin. She's a part of this group, and she was the next town over. And I've always loved that downtown. It's just this very small, quaint downtown. And I remember telling her, like, listen, I don't know what to do. Do you have any friends like in downtown, Evansville or here? And she messaged me back and she said, I just found out my neighbor is closing. I'm going to contact the landlord right now. And I was shocked, because that is where I always wanted to be. And it was just simply me reaching out, being open with someone who's in this industry, someone who like people would perceive as a competitor. And she opened that door for me. And it was so easy. It was so easy. We moved that location that I wasn't making a lot of money in. I was actually losing a ton of money, into a new location. And that was early 2019. And so we went there, and the first weekend we opened, I did double of what I normally did in sales that weekend in that location. And I remember just being in the back room crying. I was just crying. Because, here I am in a small town. I'm doing way more sales than I ever thought I would do in a big city, which proved to my point of it doesn't matter where you're actually at. It matters into the heart of the community and who you're around. And, that happened in 2019. And every month we just kept growing and growing. And then I was pregnant at that time with my miracle baby, my rainbow baby. And I gave birth. Well, there's a little bit more. So then, yeah, I did. Sorry, I have mom brain and backtracking. So during that year in 2019, I was also in the works of moving my 2nd location into a new development from my hometown. And the landlord and we could not see eye to eye on the lease. And this was November 2019. And she emailed me and she said, you know what, Sarah, you don't have to do this. And I just paused. And I was like, you know what? I don't. You're right. I don't have to do this right now. And it's okay. I'll shut down the store. I'm having my 2nd baby. And it just hit me like, I don't have to have this. And so we shut down the store, and I gave birth early February 2020. And then we all know what happened right after that. So I I went down to one store location during 2020, which all a blessing in disguise. I could have gone into this really expensive development with another location, and it would have put me out of business. It would have, no question about it. So it was very refreshing to sit here and say, okay, I'm doing more with one store than I was doing with three. And I am genuinely happy right now, and then the rat race started because the big C word happened and survival mode kicked in big time. And we were one of the very blessed companies who grew through COVID. And it was a lot. And I agree with a lot of people of having PTSD after it, because I look back and I don't know how I did it. But I lost a lot of myself and my why through the whole process, which leads into this whole past year and where we're at now. So I don't know. It all worked out so beautifully in the way that it was meant to be.
Are you headed to Atlanta for the apparel market? Well, if so, you are invited to Hubbapalooza. It's our showroom grand opening on Wednesday, June 7th, starting at 8:30 a.m. And I want to invite you to come and celebrate with us. Our Hub brand new showroom is on the 9th floor, Suite E319. Again, on the 9th floor. You can experience all day an arm candy bar. Come in and design your own bracelet stack sponsored by My Girl in LA, OMG Blings, Taylor Shea Designs, and Nettie Road Wholesale while supplies last. Those are going to go fast, you guys. Plus, from 11 to 12, we're going to have Boutique Hub Summer School streaming live for you so you can take in the training that's going to be taking place all week. Plus, from 12:30 to 2 p.m., Hubbapalooza, our showroom grand opening with a DJ and refreshments and networking with your boutique besties. At 2 o'clock, it's our education hour sponsored by Management One. You can come in and learn all about inventory planning. It's awesome, you guys. Plus, at 6 p.m., it's the Atlanta Apparel Kickoff Party hosted by the Atlanta Apparel team in Building 3 in the Atrium Floor 2. Sit and party with us. You guys, I want to see you in Atlanta. Our team will be there and waiting for you for Hubbapalooza, Wednesday, June 7th. If you're headed to Atlanta, we'll see you there. Oh, absolutely. So let's talk about what happened next. You go through COVID, grew, expanded your online, right? Which was such a blessing for so many people during that time. But then you hit a wall and you were like, okay, now what? Is this how I want to continue? And this is where it gets so interesting because really you had two paths. Like you could have said, I'll just close this down, or I'll continue to run it, but I'll focus on online and I'll just try to hire it out. But you took a totally different approach. So tell me about the approach that you took.
So do you want me to go back to when like it was the moment where it was like, I'm done?
Yeah, I want to hear the I'm done moment. And then I want to hear like the franchise moment because that's so unique.
So that would have been, actually we were in LA experience, which was the other big, huge pivotal moment. And while I was in LA with my one store location, the landlord and I we're going head to head in terms of my lease. And during the LA experience, she said, I'm not renewing your lease. You have to be out in a month and a half. And this was a store that was doing 90% of my revenue and I had nowhere to go. And so there's that thing that spark inside me. I'm like, well, I've always wanted to do online. So here it is, right? But I panicked. I was panicking so much because I have this, $1 million location and I'm about to lose it in a month, And so I was grasping. I'm like, I have to hang on to this no matter what we do, even though maybe this isn't what I want. Like that was in there, but I was refusing to actually listen to it. And shortly after, I think it was February when I was at market, I just remember sitting in the hotel room by myself and I was just crying. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. And there was something going on, inside me. And I knew it wasn't anything else externally. I could feel it deep within me that something was going on. And I remember reaching out to you because you had said you had worked with Crystal. And I met her at Summit. And without question, I said, I'm signing up. I don't care because there's something bigger going on here that I just don't know what it is. And I have to work on me. And I started working with her in April, I believe. And a lot transpired last summer. My husband was looking at taking a different job that would completely move us. And this was probably end of June last year. And I remember walking and processing everything because it was happening so fast. And in my head, I went, well, you know what? At least no one could be mad at me for shutting down my store and I can actually focus on online. And it made me stop because I've never really had that thought before. And I'm like, I was using this as an excuse, like this was my way out. And I'm like, whoa, like there's something really going on here. And that was when I accepted, like, I just don't want the stores anymore. I don't. I wanted out. Like it was there. It just randomly purged itself out of me. And all along, I was kind of looking for this way out without me having to make the decision. I wanted my hand forced in it. I was so unhappy. And, that's when everything started really kicking in. It's okay, like, this is what I want. I was under a 5-year lease. I had no idea how I was going to do it. I remember telling Crystal, I'm like, it's fine. I'll suck it up for another 4.5 years. I can do this and then we'll go online. And she's like, Sarah, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You were so unhappy. There has to be another way you can do this, that you can get out, that you can chase with what you want. And I don't know if this happens to you. I was on another walk. All my epiphanies come on walks for some reason. So I'm walking and I'm trudging up the hill and I'm like, what am I going to do? And I was like, well, I have Olivia and she was my store manager. She's been with me for years and she's amazing, but she really can't afford this. She just got out of college. Her and her fiance are just getting married. I'm like, but man, what if she franchised it? What if it was still JO+CO, but she owned it? And I'm like, that would be really cool. That'd be really cool for her, who's worked so hard, who's been by my side through everything, to be able to pass on something that I still love. Like, this is still my brand. This is still my baby. This is something I've spent so much time building. But the way I'm doing it, I don't love it. And she loves it. She thrives off of the merchandising and the customers. Like, that is what she loves. And if I could pass that and I could support her and then she could support her family, I'm like, that's really cool. And I get to pursue what I want to do, And it just hit me. And I started doing research and I put together a proposal for her. And she was like, I still never, this is ingrained in my brain. We got on a meeting. She had no idea this was coming. I was like, I just want to touch base with you. I need to go over a few things. And we're on a Zoom call and I lay everything out on her and I tell her, this is what's going on. We're probably going to have to move. I want you to buy the store as a franchise. And she just looked at me and started bawling. I mean, crying. And she's like, are you serious? And then it was a tear fest, but I told her, I'm like, there's no one else I would rather pass this on to. No one. You deserve it more than anybody I know. And if I have 10 years of experience of doing this. I could open a store with my eyes closed. Like, I got you. I will mentor you through this. I want you to be successful. I will help you. I will give you that guiding hand that I didn't have when I started this, that, man, I wish I would have had. And you know what? Like, you get to pay yourself really well for doing this. Like, really well. And there was no question. She's like, sign me up. Let's do this. And that was, I want to say, August. And we closed on it December 31st of 2022.
So update me. Like, since that's happened, like, it's going well. She's growing in this position. And then this has given you the freedom and space to pursue what you really want to do. So tell me about your day-to-day and how you focus now on online while she's focusing on the store.
Yeah, it's a whirlwind. I don't know what's going to happen with the franchise thing. I tell people, if someone would come up to me today and say, I want this, I wouldn't say no right away. Olivia and I have had those conversations of how could this expand? What would that look like? Who would take it on? But for me, that's not where my passion lies anymore. I wanted to get very granular with my customer and who I was trying to reach. And I think everyone can agree, when you have a brick and mortar, that's very hard to do because you're you're in your community, which influences that. You have ages 16 from 75 coming into your store, different price ranges, different lines, different needs, everything. And I was finding a lot of that didn't bring me joy. I wanted to get very granular on who I wanted JO+CO to become. And it's been for the last, I want to say since August, it's been not only changing who we are, in terms of operating the company, but we have a new customer, we have a new brand, we have a new style. And so we're going through all these changes, and I'm simultaneously losing customers who I've had for years, but also gaining new customers. And every day it's a change. Every day it's learning. Online is a totally different, I mean, behemoth of taking on compared to the stores. And when I had the store, I never looked at online as this beast. It was more as like a marketing channel. And now being on the other side and seeing how much hard work it takes, I have a whole new respect for people who operate online only, because it's not easy. And it's a completely different strategy than having a brick and mortar. And, I come in, and honestly, every day, I mean, there are days that are still hard. I don't want to say that, but I will say I feel like I'm glowing from the inside out. I come in, and the clothes that come in, the buying, the styling, the creative, the branding, like every part of it, I'm so in love with, versus before I didn't feel that way. I lost who we were, and I needed to find that again for myself. And now, it's opened up this whole different creative channel that I didn't even know I wanted. It's been staring me in the face, but I want to start, designing my own line. I want to start creating my own clothes. I want to start really getting into that nitty gritty of becoming a brand, and not just another store. I want to leave this legacy behind in a way, not maybe for my family. I don't want to put that pressure on my daughter or son, but in a way that helps women so deeply to find that confidence and joy within themselves that I'm able to feel when I go and buy these pieces to share with the world.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is, I feel like you've made this transition to being more in love with the purpose than the profit.
Absolutely.
And
I was
it's
actually,
such a different.
go ahead. Sorry.
It's just such a different way to approach like everything that you do. And I'm curious, like, what do you think boutique owners that are listening that maybe feel like something's going on inside of me, like you said, but I don't know how to figure out what that is, or I don't know what questions could boutique owners ask themselves to really get more in touch with what really makes me happy and what am I really chasing at the end of the day? How could they go on that self-discovery like you did?
Hire Crystal. And if it's not, sorry, Crystal, I really need like an affiliate code or something here. No, but
where is she at right now?
Where is she? But even, I mean, you don't have to do it alone. And it's hard. Like, this is not easy work. It is really hard work. Being honest with yourself, and I'm not even gonna say with yourself, with your spouse, with your friends, with your family. Like, this isn't even just about you at the end of the day. You have other people you're thinking about. And it's one thing to internally want these things, and it's a whole nother thing to sit there and scream it from the rooftops and say, I am freaking miserable and I don't want this anymore, and something's got to change. And then have everyone around you lift you up and support you in this whole new dream that you're trying to build out. It's scary. It really is. And it's not easy. And it's also saying, like, after 10 years of working on this, like, accepting that's not what you want. And there's one thing that Crystal said to me that still has stuck with me to the day. And a lot of this has revolved around, like, I spent 10 years doing this. I'm nowhere where I thought I was going to be, financially, business-wise, anything. Like, why isn't it working? And she stopped me. She said, have you ever thought the reason why it's not working is because you're not actually doing what you want to do? And maybe success is going to come after that. You need to find your joy. You need to find your passion. You need to find the love. And once you do that, that success is going to come. And I see that playing out now right in front of my eyes. I didn't believe it then, but that really stopped me and saying, like, you can have this pity party. You can say, why not me? Why isn't this happening? But only you can answer that for yourself. No one else can. Like, you can't look externally for that answer.
Yeah. Do you think part of it is also, like, why isn't the success happening to me? It's also a question of, but what is success to me? Like, it's changing what you're actually defining it to be. And how can people be okay with accepting the answer of what success really is to them? Because I keep saying this in, like, our $1 million group and our bigger groups, our mastermind, bigger isn't better. Bigger does not mean more joy, but better is better. And so how do you define what is better for you?
And that, I think, depends on every person. There are people who love the game, who love the chase of the money. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, why are we doing what we're doing if we're not happy? Like, life is so short. And there are people that I've met who, they talk about, strategy. Do I open another store? Do I do this? Do I do that? And part of me feels that panic, that, okay, what's next? And there are times where I want to stop them and say, are you happy? But are you happy? Like, are you happy living this? Or is there something else you're wanting? I want financial success. That hasn't changed. I want to be able to support my family. I want to do things. But I also want to run this company in a way that brings me joy. I don't want to fall back into, that whirlwind of, a churn and burn, of just like, okay, what's next? Let's keep it going. Let's make more money. What can I order? What about this? Instead of sitting here and thinking, like, how can I help people feel a certain way? And for me now, when I go into this, it's not about, the brand or the style. It's about that feeling inside that I want to give women of, when you put something on, like, I want you to walk into a room and I want you to own that room. Like, I want people's heads to turn and I want you to feel so empowered and so confident because of that one thing that you decided to invest in yourself to make you feel that way. It's not just another shirt. It's not just another pair of pants. Like, it is something for you that makes you feel a certain way. And whenever I was able to step back and make that connection, because for so long I was like, what's her name? What's her style? What is she? I had to get back and say, it's not about that. It's about a feeling, and once I was able to make my core around that thing that I've been chasing for so long that I don't know why I didn't admit it to myself, everything else makes it easier.
One of the most impactful quotes a mentor once told me is, only attract number grows. Now, as I think about retail, I know we have the retail art side of the brain, which is all of the fun and buying and social media and customers, but then there's the retail science side of the brain. And we have to dig deep into the numbers if we want to see them grow. That's why we created a brand new dashboard for you at the Boutique Hub called Boutique Hub Black. Boutique Hub Black is an opportunity for you to deep dive into every single metric in your business together on one dashboard, emailed to you weekly, plus text message updates if a number on your dashboard changes. And in addition, custom training based on every single metric so that if a number of yours is out of order, you can learn what to do to fix it right away. I want to invite you to this brand new opportunity, Boutique Hub Black, right now. It's limited to only 200 boutiques because of the high level training and opportunity that's inside, together with your own custom metric dashboard. Your dashboard has an opportunity to measure your real-time metrics from your backlinks, SEO, page speed and quality, everything SEO driven, plus Klaviyo, Shopify, your Facebook ad and Instagram ad data, plus your overall social performance. If you want to see all of your numbers tracked automatically for you, you don't have to pay a team member to track all of your numbers. You don't have to spend hours gathering all the data from Google Analytics and everywhere else. Instead, Boutique Black is your very own automated custom dashboard so that you can track those numbers and watch them grow. Sign up and learn more about Boutique Black in this week's show notes so you can get to tracking and seeing those track numbers grow.
So good. How do you tangibly, like, when you think about, like, I want them to have this feeling, what are some tangible ways in your business, in your marketing, just in how you operate daily, that you feel like you can deliver that through your brand and to your customer base? Like, if someone's listening and they're like, Sarah, how do I do that on a daily basis? I want it to be about a feeling too. How are you showing up differently now than you did before that allows the feeling to come?
I think being honest with myself first and foremost, and owning that. When I look into my branding now, it's when you look at my pictures, they're kind of serious with a smize, but there's this confidence that I really try to get that evokes through that photo that I want women to feel. But the thing is, women aren't one-dimensional, right? Like, we're allowed to smile, we're allowed to have fun, we're allowed to be sexy, we're all these things. So when I really look at this and that core feeling in terms of feeling empowered, it may be different depending on the day. Like, feeling empowered may be with your best friend and having a glass of wine and laughing. It may be looking at that photo and like saying, like, I know I look good without even saying the words. Like, you stand out without saying a word. So I really try and sit back and say, where is she wearing this? How is she wearing it? And how does she want to feel? So for me, I was able to sit back and say, okay, I'm my ideal customer. And I have work and date night and my friendships. So I'm either, going from the office to my husband calling me saying, hey, let's go on a date night real quick. And you know what? I want to look good. I want to feel good. It's my husband. And so I really try and look in these outfits and saying, is she going to a special occasion? Is it a wedding she has this summer? Is she going on date night with her husband? Is it vacation? I really try and look at it in terms of that special event and keep that core thought in terms, you know what I mean? Like, they're the three. We do brunch, date night, work. Those are pretty much the three things that we focus on when it comes to that outfit and what we're envisioning it for.
That's helpful. And then do you feel like you've showed up differently just in your Instagram stories and just like in your personal dialogue with your customer base and all of this?
Yeah, I do. It's been hard. There's a lot of people I think that would look at how I do probably represent my company in terms of I'm probably overly authentic. There may be people who are like, I wouldn't have shared that. But for me, it's so real. I will tell people the big reason why I even started this company is because I've suffered from eating disorders ever since I was a teenager. And, I found myself gravitating towards clothes to help me feel better. And slowly, fashion is what healed me. Fashion is what saves me because it helps me feel good about myself and my body. And I'm very open with that story to everyone else. And even though it's probably not the traditional way you do it, it's what works for me. And it's what I want my company to represent because I want women to feel you're not alone. We've all been there. We know someone who's been there. And I don't want to be just clothes. I'm not. Like, if you just want to go somewhere and buy something and that is it, I mean, yes, come buy from me. I don't care. But we are so much more than that. And I had to own that fully before I could even step out of that because I have to be confident in saying, this is who we are and this is what we represent. So, showing up with my podcast on our social media, showing up in terms of like, I've had so many people reach out and they're like, you are glowing. Like, there's just something about you. Like, there's this, happiness and joy and confidence that comes from finding you. I mean, I've refound myself, and that's a very powerful thing to say, not only my business, but me as a person, as a wife, as a mother. And that is, sorry, I'm going to get emotional. That is probably the most beautiful thing to say, I am more than my business, and I am so freaking happy in my life right now.
Can we just end the podcast right here? This is so
You're turning
we're
to
gonna
Crystal.
have
You're making me cry.
Damn it, Crystal, you're always doing this to us. I love that so much. Like I hope everyone can just like feel this. I have goosebumps when I hear you say that, but like to see this journey you've been on, I'm so freaking proud of you. And
Thank you.
this is like hearing you say this is what I want for boutique owners so bad every day. Like I don't ever want anyone to wake up feeling like they're chained to their business or like I've got to do this thing, but it's I want to do this thing. And this is allowing me to just like live this full embodied version of who I am and who God made me to be on this earth. And so I love that you're such a role model for people. And I think through your story, Sarah, you're able to give people permission to own, like, okay, I'm happy, I'm unhappy, I need to make a change. I need to face these things, but look at there's a bright side. Like I may need to face some fears, but look at the bright side and what's possible next.
Yeah.
What are some other ways you think boutique owners right now, like you're in all the groups, you hear what everybody's kind of going through at any given moment. Like what are some other practices, self-love, mindset practices, honest questions boutique owners you think could ask themselves, or how can they just get back to the core of who they want to be?
I think there are two things that stick out to me specifically. One, I've had this conversation with a few people, and our friend Josh actually just talked about this toxic positivity in a way of, you can sit here and try and put blinders on and say, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. But that's where the real work needs to come into, because yes, you want it to be okay, but putting blinders on and not being fully transparent and honest with yourself about what may be going on in the bigger picture, it's not going to be okay if you don't do that. There's this happy medium of saying like, you don't want to be negative Nancy, right? The world's not ending. You're not happy. I understand that, but you need to dig into the why. Why aren't you happy? Do you even want to be doing this? If not, that's okay. That is totally okay. Or like, even for me, I had to go on this journey of, is this what I want? Like, this has been my identity for 10 years, but is this what I want? And I had to take days to sit down and say, okay, yes, I want this, but I don't like this. And I don't like this. And for me, I had to start with, I know what I don't want. Like I had to sit down and say, I don't want this. I don't want that. I don't want this. And that's powerful too. If you don't know exactly what you want, start with what you don't want. I mean, you know that internally, you know what I mean? And I think also the discernment of knowing when something's not right for you and when you're feeling, what's the word I want to use? Privileged. Like I think we've all had a day where we're like, I don't want to get on social media. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Is it that you don't really want to do it? Or are you just burnt out and you need to take a break for yourself right now? There's that really hard, gray area that sometimes we get stuck in, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but it takes you to make that step forward and find that light for yourself.
Okay, so how do you, when you know what the light is that you want to be, I feel like the thing that really is the roadblock for most people is their fear of, here's where I am, here's where I want to be, but in the middle, roadblock is, what are other people going to think of me? And the fear of judgment. How can people get past the fear of judgment or the fear of other people thinking, oh, she didn't make it or she's going backwards or whatever? How do you push past that fear to really lean into where you want to go and who you want to be?
As much as I would like to say, screw everyone, it is a real thing to work through. I mean, imposter syndrome is a really hard thing to work through. It's something that I'm still working through myself. But at the end of the day, you have to look at it and say, does their opinion really matter? Like for me, when I think about someone and they look like, a lot of people honestly don't, it's hard for them to comprehend the decision I made. I sold a chunk of my business that at the time was doing 80% of our revenue, and I took a financial cut. And I feel like people are like, but why? Why would you? I don't understand. I feel, and that was even, so for me, I had to really step aside and say, that's not my issue. That's something that if they can't understand that, that's fine. But I'm so comfortable with what I chose to do. And at the end of the day, their opinion of whether or not they understand or like me as a person, it doesn't really affect my day-to-day. My husband, my family, what I'm choosing to do in terms of living my core life and how I'm choosing to live that, that's what matters. And also the women I'm helping out there, I don't care if it's one person. If it's one person I'm helping, that trumps every single thing that anybody else may think of me. And it's almost having to put earmuffs on or blinders on at times and just focus and say, this is what I'm doing. What do I have to lose? I mean, really, at the end of the day, there's this like fight or flight mode, right? And I really had to say, if this doesn't work out, if I take this risk, is my world gonna burn? No. I will go find a different job. I am completely employable, right? Like I have so much experience. Will it suck? Will it hurt? Absolutely. Because I've spent the last so many years building something. But the world is not going to end. So if I'm going to go down, I'm going to do it like guns blazing and go after what I actually want. I don't want to look back and say, what if? No matter, and no one's opinion about that really matters.
So good. So good. Sara, this has been incredibly honest and insightful in so many ways today. I'm so just thankful for your generous heart and sharing your journey with us. And I know so many boutique owners can relate and hear you on this and are battling with what does make me happy. It's not what I see on social media and it's what makes me happy. So you've probably already answered this last question a number of ways through what you've already shared, but I'm going to ask it to you anyway. And that is, I know you're a wife and a mom and we've talked about purpose, but really like 30 years from now, honestly, when you do look back at this whole journey and you're talking to your grandkids about the life that you lived, the businesses you've created, all this journey you've been on, what's the thing you want them to remember most about you?
I lived my life without regrets. That I went after what I wanted for my dreams. And whether or not works out, I mean, no one can predict the future. I have no idea what it's going to look like. I did the brave thing and I actually went after it. And not a lot of people do that. And to me, that's everything. And you know what? I'm sitting here surrounded by my beautiful family, hopefully lots of grandkids on the beach somewhere with a glass of wine in my hand, just loving life and saying, I did it. I did it. And here I am. And I am so grateful and thankful that I've been able to live this life. And look how beautiful it is.
So good. Sara, you are awesome. Thanks again for your time today. Thank you for your friendship. And I can't wait to see where this journey continues to take you.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. We hope that you loved it. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave a rating and review down below for a chance to be one of our featured listeners each and every week. For more information on our spirit of community over competition and how to access complete show notes and bonus downloads from our guests, head on over to theboutiquehub.com and join the community. We'll see you next week.